Carl, tonight we honor your remarkable service to the institution, to the nation, and to the cause of democracy around the world. Tonight, however, is not just about the past, it's also about the future. About how Carl's 37 years of service has helped prepare NED for the mounting challenges all free peoples face today. We gather as we are witnessing a rollback of freedoms in Afghanistan, crackdown on protests in Cuba and Belarus, a military coup in Burma and Guinea, the squeezing of Hong Kong, the undermining of democracy in Tunisia, manipulated elections in Nicaragua and Russia. But we also see, and the activists remind us of the power and the story of democratic resilience, which we'll talk about tonight. We are inspired by their progress as we see that from Moldova to Zambia to Ecuador and Malawi. People who are brave enough to do this work are encouraged when they know there are people who believe in their struggle and they are not alone. So we gather tonight to honor Carl's remarkable career, nurturing and forging the National Endowment for Democracy into the remarkable institution it is today, America's foundation for freedom and democracy.
His move to the endowment was a natural progression. It represented a continuation of his political activism, born out of the civil rights movement at home and his efforts at the United Nations to align American values with its interests abroad. That experience and Carl's intellect, passion, and energy quickly defined the personality of the NED family.
I'm just profoundly grateful for the resource that we have in the National Endowment for the Democracy and these constituent institutes, the work they do every day in some of the most difficult and challenging environments in the world. And for that legacy, we owe enormous credit to Carl Gershman.
But I found Carl was the perfect person to make sure that Democrats and Republicans were talking to one another. And we had differences at times on the board. But he was the perfect person to make sure that he brought it back together so that Democrats and Republicans stayed focused on the mission of democracy to make this place a better place that we call on the planet Earth.
Under his leadership, the NED has become a trusted voice and an indispensable resource for people all around the world struggling to establish or strengthen democracy in their countries. One of the things he understands is that you can't have democracy without a respect for human rights. And so he has helped educate members of Congress about the challenges that journalists face, that those who are trying to form labor unions face, that those who are trying to worship, the way they believe, what they face.
Folks who are in the gulags, folks who are struggling, whether it's in Belarus, or it's in Cuba, or Venezuela, or Nicaragua, or North Korea, there's a name that they all know. And they know that he has been fighting on their side day in and day out. And they know that they've never been alone, because Carl has always been on the forefront of their fight, of their struggle.
It's a mission that he has been on all this time. And anytime you thought maybe it was just too much, you saw his example of endless, principled, disciplined, strategic leadership for all of this. Thank you for all of you who support NED. Carl made it easy because he always had a plan, a vision, a man with a vision and a plan to get some things done, always values-based, always cheerful about it, and always, always a blessing to our country, what we care about, what we stand for. And I tell you, I speak on behalf not only of myself, which I feel very personally appreciative of Carl, but also for your many, many friends in the Congress of the United States, on both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the Capitol. Aren't we all proud to know Carl Gershman? Isn't he just wonderful?
Against all odds, but with the passion and belief that drives Carl, the connective tissue for a global democracy movement, a community, began to take shape. Carl was able to bring an idea to life. He built a heart, a soul, and an ethos that is deeply embedded in NED's staff and culture.
Truly, you are the amazing leader. leader of conscience, a motivator, and inspiration. Your legacy is the empowerment of self-governed people and the greater justice that it increasingly makes to be realized around the world. I'm honored to have been associated with you and the institution that you define. We will all work to ensure that the mission of NED continues and lives up to your expectations.
I wouldn't be able to do this work without the enabling funding and moral support of National Democracy, without you, Carl. You touched me, you supported me, you remind people we actually made a difference.
Thank you for your legacy of defense of human rights. Thank you for your fight against communism, against dictatorship, against evil. Thank you for your support to democracy, to freedom, to life, everywhere. Thank you because even in those places where the rest of the world already gave up, you stand in solidarity. Thank you because dissidents all around the globe are a little less lonely because of you.
Carl never allowed me to give up. He always had my back and gave me the push that I sometimes needed to just take one more step. He inspired me and always believed in me, sometimes more than myself. As I look back on my life journey from a democracy activist to a government minister, and now as an international civil servant, I know if there is one person I can say besides my mother who has played such a major role in my life, it is you, Carl.
Carl, the board congratulates you, and we send our deep and abiding appreciation for your years of dedicated service to a worldwide movement and to the people who, at great personal sacrifice, courageously lead it.
What the NED is, it's a partnership, really, a partnership with the Congress for human freedom. That's what the NED is. And here I am. I was, privileged to be able to do what I like doing. But what the world is going to be like in the future, it's going to be an ideological battle, a battle of ideas, a battle of information, a battle of values. And that's our space. That's what we do. That's going to be more important in the future, in the battles against the authoritarians. And I talked this morning about the way Marty Lipset, had said to tell the Congress that he was worried we were going to abolish the NED in the 1990s when we were no longer needed, that the battle against authoritarianism between democracy and authoritarianism didn't begin with the Cold War. It didn't end when the communism collapsed. It continues. And it is going to continue. It is a fundamental struggle. And in the period ahead, the work that NED does with its institutes, and I want to thank each of the presidents for being here tonight, the work that we do is more important than ever before. And Reagan said it in the Westminster Address, when he talked about the ultimate determinant in the outcome of this struggle is going to be a test of wills and ideas, a trial of spiritual resolve, he said. And why do I think we can win this struggle? As bad as everything is today is because of some of the people you've heard tonight and we heard this morning. These autocrats and these dictators, they can put people in prison, they can kill people as they have, but they can't wipe out the human desire for freedom and dignity. You just can't do that. The work is steady. We have steady work. And it's a privilege to do this work. It's, as was said tonight, it's not a job, it's a calling. And that's what it's been for me. And I feel, just incredibly privileged to be able to have had that opportunity. And I want to thank you, Frank, and everyone who made that possible for me.